This is a 3D printer in my closet. So this, not too long ago, seemed like science fiction. Having a machine in a closet that could make things just out of a file. You upload it and it makes it. Now it's not that quick and not like in the sci-fi movies, but nonetheless, it's the manufacturing capability in your hands, at home, on a desk, and even in a closet. And that's incredible. Today, we're going to talk about what you can do with a 3D printer in the context of business and making money. Because for a lot of people out there, including myself, with an entrepreneurial spirit, we wonder about what are the possibilities to make money with a 3D printer, with the manufacturing capabilities. Is it worth it? Should you get a 3D printer? What are the benefits and downsides and things like that? So in this video, we're going to explore all of that and uncover the details that you need to know in order to consider whether it's worth it to sell things made 3D printed. Anyway, with that being said, let's get on with the video. Okay, so let's talk about making money with 3D printers. The first options and the most obvious are, number one, selling things on eBay or Etsy, things that you find on Thingiverse, which is a place where you can go find files to 3D print and just selling them like products. And the second option is 3D printing on demand, where you go on a website, you sign up, people upload files and they ask you to 3D print it for them and you send it to them. Now, these are the two most common and they can be profitable and a good business. But it's complicated. Now, 3D printing on demand is usually more profitable because of the higher margin, because someone's usually willing to pay a little bit more for something that only a 3D printer can make, something that's not out there and needs to be very specific to what their file is. And here is where they're willing to pay a huge premium for a product. However, this market is extremely saturated. Finding a customer is rare, as there's so many people out there that already are offering this service. Not only that, but the expensive premium means that at some point, when a company or an individual is needing 3D prints often enough, they just go out there and buy their own 3D printer, as they're so inexpensive nowadays. So as the demand thins out and the supply expands exponentially to everybody on Earth who has a 3D printer, this seems less and less attractive, as there's not really anything left for you to capitalize on. Now, I don't want to be quick to kick 3D printing on demand to the curb, but really, it's just not as attractive today anymore as it was maybe a couple of years ago when 3D printers were still thousands of dollars. Nonetheless, you can still make a business out of this. I'm not saying it's impossible or that the business is just not there. It's doable, it's possible, there is still enough demand, but it's difficult. 3D printing on demand is what in the business world would be considered a red ocean. It's too bloody. There's too much blood in the ocean, too many people there. There's just not enough room for you. Not only that, but 3D printing on demand is something that is unlikely to build a brand, something that is long-lasting, truly valuable, and a business that can be sold. But I want to reiterate, it's not that black and white. There's so much more to consider, think about, the possibilities, different methods and options, that there is still room. There's still something there. It's just something I don't believe is quite worth it. Okay, moving on. What about selling things on platforms like Etsy or eBay? Pulling things off of Thingiverse, posting them, printing them out when they buy, and sending that out. Now, this can be a little bit better because there's a little bit more of a way to differentiate yourself. However, again, it's complicated. Let's talk about it. Now, unfortunately, selling knickknacks and things on eBay and Etsy is already kind of saturated as well. There's already a lot of people with 3D printers posting things on Etsy and 3D printing them and selling them. And the problem here is that differentiating yourself is difficult. If you make something that truly works, then someone is just going to rip you off and start selling it themselves as well, as they see your success. Now, this is something you always have to worry about, but in this case particularly, it's easier to rip you off than in pretty much any other business out there. There's already so many people out there selling knickknacks and things on Etsy that it's difficult. Let's take a look at one of these sellers on Etsy and see kind of their finances, how much money they're making, and try and determine whether it's worth it what they're doing. Let's take a look. Let's say you go on Thingiverse and download a little octopus and you go on Etsy and sell it for $7. And let's be generous and say that the filament and electricity cost is only $1.50. Next, your failure rate is 5%, which again is optimistic, and this failure rate is returned products, damaged products, failed prints, complaints, refunds, all of that. Let's say 5%, although typically I like to go much higher than that, 10, maybe even 15% depending on the products, but let's go 5% on this one. And another thing that isn't usually thought about is how expensive packaging materials are. Now, shipping the item is a serious expense as well, but the actual packing material is also quite expensive. Now, there's two extremes to this. When you're very small, shipping maybe 1 to 2 items a week, let's say you're shipping 5 items a week. You can go ahead and find boxes in your home, find packages in your home, and retrofit what you already have in order to ship these things for free. However, once you get into that middle point where you're selling maybe 10 to 30 items a day, finding packages around your home and things you can fit to your package is just not an option. It takes too much time. Oftentimes, you run out of materials in your own home once you're doing this kind of volume, and you have to start buying a standard packaging process in order to make this not only quicker, but efficient and doable. So at this point, when you're just selling a couple dozen, things can get very, very expensive. Now, once you get into the hundreds, then it can get a lot cheaper because you can buy packages on wholesale for very, very inexpensive. However, in that middle point, it can be very, very expensive. Relatively speaking. You could probably send this in a poly bag or something like that. Let's say shipping costs, tape, the bag, a little bit of packing and stuff like that, it's 50 cents. 50 cents shipping per unit. With all of that, you're making $4.65 a unit, not including the shipping cost, which the shipping cost is usually charged to the buyer, at least on Etsy. Unless you buy a large amount, I think it's like $35 to $50 depending on the seller. But typically you won't have to take care of the shipping yourself. Now that's not it. You also have to take into consideration the fees that platforms like Etsy and eBay charge off the top line. So that's another 10%. Let's say you're making $4 a unit. Now that's not great, but it's not terrible either. A little over 50% margin is not that bad. However, this comes with its limitations on volume and many other details like that, and how much you could actually sell. But let's go on with this store and see how much they're selling and do the numbers. This store has been open since February 2020. That's nearly 15 months for a total of 40 sales a month. At 40 sales a month, that comes out to $160 a month in the most optimistic circumstances, saying that your shipping cost is low, your material is low, your cost is low, your failure rate is low, you would make around $160 a month. At least this store is making $160 a month. And I think we could all agree that while that is a good amount of money, it's not a lot. At $160 a month, that's $40 a month. Now, at a low-paying job, $10 an hour, we still haven't even considered taxation and things like that, because on this, if you don't get your finances right and your details right, you're going to be paying more tax than if you were working a regular job. But let's ignore that for a second. $40 a week, hey, $40 is good, but I'd argue that you're gonna spend at least 4 hours preparing the 3D prints, bed leveling, doing things you gotta do, shipping, packaging, managing orders, responding questions on Etsy or eBay. I don't believe it's worth it when it comes to monetary value, because there's just not a return on your time and a return on your investment there that's really justifies it. However, hold on, I do believe there's a serious value here that we haven't covered yet. So what is that? That is the experience and the data. These two things are the most valuable of this experience. Selling things on Etsy, learning to run a business is really important. Tracking the finances and doing all of that is gonna add a lot of value and a lot of knowledge to you and what you're doing. Now, if you already know a lot about business, how all of that works, you've already tracked finances before and done all of this, this may not be as much value. But hold on, there's more. There is another alternative to this that I believe can make a serious business, actually. Something worth millions of dollars. But let's take a step back. I think the real opportunity is learning a platform like Fusion 360 that is free for hobbyists, or any other CAD platform for 3D modeling. So why is this valuable? Well, because you're not using other people's designs anymore. You're differentiating and creating your own designs that nobody else has. And this is where you can start to create true value and make something that is truly worth something valuable, even a brand. If you're gonna get a 3D printer and you want it for business, not just knickknacks, then you're gonna have to learn something like Fusion 360. And I believe that is a must-have, especially if you're looking at it in a business sense. Now here, there are many paths you can take. So let's start with the first one, simplest one, making something truly unique that solves a problem, making a product that is just simply good. You can 3D print something that people like and start ordering a lot of, something that nobody else has. Unfortunately, this is easy to steal. They're gonna see that you're having success, and they're probably just gonna make a copy of it. They may not have your exact file, but they'll be able to make a copy of it and just print their own and start selling that. You will have copycats. However, you've started differentiating yourself nonetheless. The next thing you can do with this, making your own designs, is truly just prototyping. Now, this gets much more complex and much more into high-end business. But essentially, what I'm saying is that you can start prototyping actual products that you think you can send out to manufacturers in China to blast out of a mold and sell hundreds of thousands of these units per year. But you can use a 3D printer in order to do some market research and validate your idea. Make a batch of 50 or 30 products on your 3D printer, sell them, get feedback on it, try it yourself, prototype, and like this is how you can find an idea that is truly worth pursuing at a large scale. And the best part is that you can do it for extremely cheap, because any bozo can go on Thingiverse and download anything and sell the same thing 50 other bozos are selling. But making your own product, making your own prototypes will make you differentiate yourself. And when it comes to business, there's two main tactics: differentiation and cost leadership. Now, if you're not going to be the cheapest, you need to be something different, something that nobody else can offer. Let's conclude what we've covered so far. Wholesaling, well, it's a very bloody ocean. There's just no room there. Selling 3D prints on Etsy or eBay is just a lot of competition as well. The ocean is also bloody there, and there is an opportunity, but it's just too difficult, and it's not really worth it in the long term. To make something truly valuable, you have to learn computer-aided design for 3D models. This way you can start making solutions and products and things that are unique and differentiated to you. Because while we likely can't pursue cost leadership, as so many people out there are already doing it with 3D printing, we can pursue differentiation with our 3D printer, because we can make anything. We can take an idea from our brain, knowing the tool enough, place that in the tool, and then 3D print it. And we don't only have to think about plastic, we can also integrate things like metal and other materials into our builds, at least in the early days when we're prototyping and trying to figure out what's a good product that's gonna sell like crazy. Because once you find the right product, the problem is not gonna be selling, the problem is gonna be not having enough to sell. So if you design something that is selling like crazy, and you can't keep up with the demand with your 3D printer, you know that potentially you have something that's worth pursuing at a higher level. You can start making design changes, adjustments, getting feedback, and eventually get a manufacturer in China to produce these in the hundreds of thousands to make $1 million business. So overall, that's where I stand, and that's where I believe there's true business to be done. But there are rare scenarios where somebody makes a custom design that's not out there and is able to make a lot of money out there because it's solving a true issue. But at that point, it's not really worth it to 3D print. The amount of time and labor is too much. At that point, you should start looking at manufacturing it in China. Those people who stay in the 3D printing process and the 3D printing phase are not really optimizing to make something that's truly valuable. And I'm not saying it's not doable. Companies like Prusa that are 3D printing parts for their 3D printers, they're successful and they're doing something that works, but it's just not efficient. If Prusa would just go to China and just push these out of a mold, Prusa would be able to get their prices down, or at the very least improve their margins. Not only that, but they'll be able to fulfill their orders. They're always behind on their orders. You want to order Prusa 3D printer? No, you can't do that. It's going to take like 3 months in order for it to get to you. And that's great. People believe in Prusa. They have a great product. But it's not because they're 3D printed. It's because they're a great product. So why aren't they optimizing? Honestly, I don't know. Prusa is one of those companies that are just doing something that feels like they're doing it for the fundamentals of being a 3D printed company, but overall, it's not really a business that I feel is optimizing to what their potential could be. Alright, that's it for this video. If you want to invest in stocks, get your 2 free stocks with Weevil down in the description below. Totally free. Anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.